Good morning everyone. Today we are going to continue with our second chapter, Sectors of the Indian Economy. And in today's module, we are going to discuss GDP comparison in three sectors, rising importance of the tertiary sector, and where are most of the people employed, underemployment and disguised employment. Now, in the last class, we compared the primary, secondary and tertiary sector in India in terms of production. And today we are going to compare the GDP of primary, secondary and tertiary sector with reference to 1973, 74 and 2013 and 14. So all of you do one thing, look at your graph number 1 in your book which is given on your page number 24. The graph 1 shows the production of goods and services in the three sectors. This is shown for 2 years 1970, 71 and 2013 and 14. So if you compare the two sectors, we can see that in 1973-74, the GDP of India is very small and it became very large in 2013 and 14. And also we can see that in 1973-74 the primary sector was the most dominating sector, while in 2013 and 14 it was the tertiary sector which became the dominating sector. So with this graph some questions are given that you can do it yourself. Now, over the 40 years, while production in all sectors has increased, it has increased the most in the tertiary sector. As a result, tertiary sector has emerged as the largest producing sector in India, replacing the primary sector, and that we have seen in the graph. Now the question comes, why? The answer, there could be several reasons. Number 1, in any country, several services such as hospitals, educational institutions, post and telegraph services, police station, courts, village administration office, banks, insurance company, etc. are required, and this can be considered as basic services. In developing countries, the government has to take the responsibility of these services, and as the population is increasing, the demand for the basic service also increased, and as the basic services are increasing, more and more people are getting employment and jobs in the tertiary sector. Next comes the development of primary and secondary sector. The development of agriculture and industry leads to the development of service sectors such as transport, trade, storage. Greater the development of primary, secondary sector, more would be the demand for such services. With increased income, there is more demand for various services like eating restaurants, that is eating out, tourism, shopping, private hospitals and private schools. Now people's income has increased over the last 40 years. With increasing income, people wants to spend their money on different services. Then development of information technology. Over the past decade or so, certain new services such as those based on information and communication technology have become important and essential. For example, call centers and e-commerce. These are the services which are mostly based on information and technology, and at the present time they are giving employment to a large number of people. Take the example of say Amazon. It's an online shopping. What do you simply do? You sit in front of the computer, you see the product, you replace the you buy the product, and then it is a responsibility of these people to ensure that product reaches to your doorstep, and in this process a large number of people are involved. Now the next is, so we can see that service sector in India employs many different kinds of people. At one end, there are limited number of services that employ highly skilled and educated workers. And at the other end, there are a very large number of workers engaged in services such as small shopkeepers, repair persons, transport persons, etc. These people barely manage to earn a living, and yet they perform these services. Why? Because there are no other alternative opportunities for work are available to them. Since there are no option for them, they are forced to work in service sector as unskilled laborers where income is very, very less. Now, the next we have two more graphs in your book on page number 25. Graph 1, it shows the share of sectors in GDP, and graph 3 shows the shares of sectors in employment. So in 1973-74, we can see that primary sector is contributing approximately 40% to the GDP, and the share is decreased in 1934 to around approximately 15%. And even in the employment sector, we can see in 1977-78, okay, approximately 75% of the people were engaged in primary sector, and in 2017 and 18, still approximately 50%, okay, or you can say 49-50% people are still dependent on primary sector. So graph 2 represent percentage share of the three sectors in GDP. You can directly see the changing importance of the sectors over 40 years. In 1973-74 it was primary sector, and in 2013 and 14 it was tertiary sector. And graph 3 shows the employment in three sectors in 1977-78 and 2017 and 10. In 1977 it was primary sector, and 2017 and 18 also it is primary sector. So conclusion, in India there has been a change in the share of three sectors in GDP, but a similar shift has not been taken place in employment. The primary sector continues to be the largest employment giver even now. So the next question comes, in which sector most of the people employed in India and why? So obviously after seeing the graph you can say most of the people are employed in primary sector. But why? Because not enough jobs were created in the secondary and tertiary sector. Even though industrial output or production of goods went up by more than 9%, employment in the industry went up by only 3% or 3 times. Similarly, while production in service sector increased by 14 times, employment increased only by 5 times. As a result, more than half of the workers in the country are working in the primary sector, mainly in agriculture, producing only a quarter of GDP. In contrast to this, secondary and tertiary sector produces 3/4 of the produce, whereas they employ less than half of the people. Okay, what it means? It means there are more people in agriculture than is necessary. So even if you remove few people out, production will not affected. In other words, workers in agriculture sector are underemployed, and it is also known as disguised unemployment. So in disguised unemployment, people appear to be employed. Okay, you can see that they are going to work and they are working, but they are working less than their potential. It is hidden in contrast to someone who does not have a job and is clearly visible as unemployed. So disguised unemployment is a kind of unemployment in which there are people who are visibly employed but are actually unemployed. This situation is also known as hidden unemployment. In such a situation, more people are engaged in work than required. For example, in an agricultural activity, the work required the service of 5 people but engages 8 people. 3 people are extra. So these 3 people also work in the same field as others. The contribution made by the 3 extra people does not add to the contribution made by the 5 people. If 3 people are removed, the productivity of the field will not decline. The field requires services of 5 and 3 extra people are disguisedly unemployed. So underemployment exists not only in primary sector but other sectors too. For example, casual labor in tertiary sectors are also underemployed because sometimes they get the work, sometimes they don't get the work. Workers at construction sites are also underemployed. Okay, so why should we be worried about underemployment? Underemployment is actually a matter of concern because it leads to the wastage of human resources. It reduces the earning capacity of the person. It results in a poor standard of living and ultimately leads to the poverty. So with this, our second topic is over. Thank you.